2024 Torch Retreat Fellows Reading. And this is our second one, y'all. Good time. Yeah. So my name is Gwendolyn, and I am a writer and a community curator, and more importantly in this moment, a proud member of, the board for Torch Literary Artists. And I want all of the past and current board members to be acknowledged, stand up, and then something. We're in here. Thank you all so much for coming to support Torch and the work of our amazing fellows. I can't wait to do Saturday. I have the privilege of just reading some of their work, and it's really inspired me, and you all are in for a treat. And I feel the love in here, and so yes, it's been good times. So to you all, I wanted to say thank you for your bravery and your courage and your trust in Torch, right? That we're gonna support and hold your work and elevate it the way it deserves to be. So thank you very much. And also thank you to the amazing, and I know many of you, performance artists, actors who have given up their time to help bring this work to life. So we're really excited to have you all do what you do. And you will hear more about all of them in a little bit. Also, and thanks again to the caterers, very, very good. Enjoy the food. So, my job now, even though she talked a minute ago, is to officially welcome our illustrious founder and executive director of Torch. That is Amanda Johnson. I'm gonna have to, we have to give folks their flowers out of here. So I'm gonna do just a little bit of that. Not as much as I'd like to, but they know I can go on and on, so I have to stay aside. Okay, so what you may know about Amanda is that she is a writer, an artist, and the 2024 Texas Poet Laureate. Yes, I just need to say that one more time, but that's a big deal. The 2024 and Texas Poet Laureate. So you may know that she has over 20 years of experience in nonprofit management, that she is the author of 2 chapbooks, Block and Lock and Key. You may know that she has a full-length collection called Another Way to Stay Entered, which I recommend you all go get if you haven't. Or that her work has appeared in numerous online and print publications. Hold on, check out that. She has received fellowships, grants, and awards, and is a former board president of Adaptation Foundation, a member of Oscillation, Poets, and co-founder of Black Poets Speak Out. Yes, so but what you may not know, what I want you to know, is that she is a fierce protector of women. We're not gonna do it, we'll provide fierce protector of Black women writers, and has formally worked since 2006 to elevate. She has personally pushed me and so many others to go beyond our self-imposed limits and to stand in the power of our stories, to shift narratives, lives, and create movements. So please join me in welcoming Amanda.
I'm gonna go cry in the car. Thank you so much, Stephanie. That means a lot to me. Thank you so much, friend. Thank you all for being here. Look at this room. This is so exciting. This is the second year of what is now a core program of Torch Literary Arts, our annual retreat for creative writing fellows that takes place right here in Austin, Texas. We welcome 8 incredible writers, Black women writers, to the space that we created, cultivated, and reserved just for you. It's truly been a labor of love. As a Black woman writer, I know the challenges that we face, and I know the joys and possibilities that happen when we're able to take up space together. We deserve this. We deserve this. Our dear friend, Hallie Hobson, who's also on our advisory board, and does incredible development and fundraising, said Black folks' abundance is their birthright. We already paid the debt. It was already paid for us. And the work that we do, and especially Black women, we're not going to talk politics, but I know y'all watching. If you're here in this room, I know y'all watching. But oftentimes, Black women are called to do the heavy lifting, to fix what's broken and wrong in the room. And being an artist doesn't take away those responsibilities or expectations that aren't yours, but still get landed at your feet anyway. So when we were thinking of the space that we were going to create for the Torch Retreat, it was with intention and love to say, what if Black women could have a moment where that is not on their shoulders, that is not your burden. That's what this is, and it's not symbolic, it's not a metaphor, it is literal, it is real. And you are about to see the fruits of that labor, those seeds that were planted, right? Ooh, I wanna also shout out the board of directors. Y'all see me running the room, and I know if you're in this room, at some point you probably ask me, man, what are you doing, are you okay? Because I stay so busy, because we can't drop the ball. It's impossible, I won't let that happen for this, but I don't do it alone. Board, again, please raise your hand. I want people to see you so they can connect with you. And our advisory board members in the room, shout out to Ross. Many of you are donors in the room. It takes every single person to make it happen. So thank you so much. And thank you so much for showing up, whether it's your first time at a Torch event or you've been to many, many Torch events. We can't do this work without you. Writers need readers. Writers, playwrights, screenwriters, they need an audience. We all need people to receive the work so that the connectivity, right, the power that happens in that can be complete. We can only ever do 50% of our work as writers. The rest of it happens when we're brave enough to release it and share it with the world. Thank y'all for being brave. I also want to thank our incredible funders. First and foremost, our partner here at the Carver Museum. Recognize the George Washington Carver Museum. This Black institution has opened its doors to us again and again, and is continuing to make space for us to do these incredible programs along with our peers and other community members. I see several in the room. Thank you for coming together, and thank you, Carver, for welcoming us. Shout out to Dawn, shout out to Christine, shout out to Carrie, shout out to Chip, and every single person at the Carver that set up a chair, answered the email, and made it possible. And our incredible major donors who cut the big checks, because it does take those too. As we're growing as an organization, institution, if you're going to be equitable and be about that life of sustainability, that also means you're compensating people. So all of our artists get paid. Even our fellows who are here get paid. They receive a stipend for being here. And the retreat is provided to them at no cost. At no cost. Because of our major donors and funders. So shout out to the City of Austin Cultural Arts Division, the Bergen Johnson Foundation, the Poetry Foundation, the National Endowment for the Arts, and the beautiful Colton House Hotel that is now an official partner. We couldn't do this work without you. Thank you. And I'm going to say that you all should have a program, and we're in your seats, and we have others at the tables, but I'm not going to read the bios for the sake of time. Please read them in your program. Please visit them online. Follow them on social media. Go to their websites. Because what you are in store for is a very unique and special moment where you get to see these incredibly talented writers' works in progress. That's something, I don't know if you're an artist, you're like, I'm sensitive about what is that? But they are so graciously going to share that. So that is a gift from them to all of us to be able to see their work in progress, right? And it is important for them to hear the work out loud and in this way so that they can then continue to revise, create, and continue forward with their work. We hope that this is a moment of inspiration for you, a moment of reflection and ideation for your projects, but above all, encouragement. Keep going. We know it's hard, but we're so grateful. Thank you. I also want to shout out the incredible team. KM, Brittany, Faye, and Jay in Portland, who helps edit the magazine online. As I'm running out of start time, y'all make this so possible. It is amazing to have your talents in the room, your ideas, and your thoughtful, tender, careful care for the spaces we create. Thank you. And so in your program, you will see the order for tonight's reading, okay? So we'll start first with M. McPowell. You clap. Then Esther Okonkwo. D.W. McKinney. Sandra Jackson-Opoku. Deborah D. Mouton, Meredith King, Elizabeth Brown, and Destiny Hunter. We also have an extra treat in store. As we have, as part of the retreat, we focus on the genres that are published in the magazine. So each of the fellows represents poetry, fiction, creative nonfiction, so that would be memoir or like personal essays, and then script, which are plays and screenplays. So for the plays and screenplays that are in progress, we have these incredible actors who are going to come and bring those works to life. So please, a round of applause for Alan Portery, Jeremy Brown, Nina Barber Payne, and Florinda Brown. Thank you all for coming and feeding into this space. I'll say that again. A round of applause for each and every one of you. You have to show up so magic can happen. Thank you for being in the room. And with that, we will welcome our first reader to the mic. Keep that energy going for M. McPowell.
Very good evening. It is so gorgeous over here. Wow, I'm so happy to be here tonight. I'm so delighted to be kicking us off. I just want to extend my gratitude to Amanda and the entire team at Torch. Thank you all so much for your hospitality, your generosity, your care, and your encouragement. And thank you for the community that you cultivated for us this week. and beyond. Tonight, I'm going to be reading from my poetic memoir in progress. It's tentatively titled Yellowbone, and it is a poetic memoir that explores my mother and my relationship, our overlapping experiences of sexual violence, secrecy, and shame, but as well as our experiences of intimacy, desire, and pleasure. This week, I've been thinking a lot about my mother's love for Black popular culture and thinking about how her obsessions as a superfan, as a concert-hopping kind of groupie, influenced her expressions of gender and sexuality, and then therefore were illuminating to me as a queer kid growing up. So I'm going to read to y'all from that section of the future memoir. I think for this opening piece, the only thing you need to know is that Scary Spice is the only Black member of Spice Girls. Let her tell it, she had her tongue pierced before Scary Spice did. In 2013, after Mel B, Scary Spice, confessed to Cosmo, she had kissed each of her Spice Girl group mates upon getting her tongue pierced in the mid-90s. My mother couldn't let it go. My mother could convince you Scary had mimicked her, the pearl of her muscle perpetually clicking at the back of her teeth. My mother could convince you that Mel B had been in that exact Bed-Stuy parlor with the perspiring walls, while the teenage tattoo artist thrust a needle through her tendon. She lisped on about rumors and speculations, her elaborate fictions about what happened beyond the curtain on the tour bus. I know how girls get, she would trill. I know how girls get, especially when they're desperate for something. The first time I heard my mother use the word lesbian was in reference to Whitney Houston. Exasperated with a kiss of her teeth, she flicked off the radio's rumor mill, cued the moonroof, and broke my concentration, my obsessive concern about other cars on the road. If Whitney Houston's a lesbian, she should just be out with it, nobody gives a damn. She adjusted the seatbelt over her white tube top with a silver rhinestone set in the shape of the Playboy bunny. We came to a red light. I mentally gripped the sound of the word tripping off her tongue, the elongated Z, the punctuated B. One of my mom's favorite live performances that she talks about still to this day is Janet Jackson's Velvet Rope Tour. Yes. So this is the late 90s tour that Janet went. So this is my mother recounts Janet Jackson's performance of Any Time, Any Place on the Velvet Rope Tour, 1999. Okay, got some Janet fans, all right. Let's get into it. Only fire knows how to singe and will do it for the stage, surrounded by encore and black satin. Ravenous with her raven's eye, Janet demands the most desperate man from the audience, has him escorted, his wrists roped, his legs spread. Slower, then slower, the finger snaps, deep strums, axiomatic rainstorm stripped for tease. She feasts, face and fingers froze in deviant restraint, motionless luster, while he begs, confesses, calls upon his God for penance, pantomimes his hips with a phantasmic wish. How wickedly she wields this power to make men want something she can withhold, to make them ride without shame, center stage, a violet bracelet bruising into their knotted wrists, Janet incandescent with her inclination to kiss. Today, she says, of course, she's loved gorgeous women, wanted them dressed down to the diamond ring, but not as something she could keep. Dancing in the nightclub to a dance hall beat, sometimes 2 or 3 of them would be wrapped up in a wire cage, gripping its frame and grinding slower to the music. It was sexy, she explains, my mother with wild child tattooed beside her belly ring. It doesn't mean I wanted to marry them. I'm gonna take a little turn. Self-portrait, watching my lover shave their face. How else could I become the blue metal blade so close to the pulse of your blood? Maroon makes moonlight out of you, makes you a man so close to killing I quiver. Slant against the sharp edge, you finger your fine lines, jawbone, mustache, the soft palate of your throat. To desire someone means to make them animal. To make them animal means to make them your prey. I praise some nights to be the blade. I praise some nights to be its handle. The thing you touch, or the thing that touches you. A tongue to taste the drip of the razor's red, or the blood itself spooling along my teeth. Carnal, this queer ache, bluing between the midnight fists of my bonds. This is the last poem I have for you all this evening. But before I do, I just want to say I'm so excited for the rest of the fellow. Thank you all for making this week so magical. And I'm crying, so I'm gonna get to this poem. Okay. You let me kiss you in the nightclub in San Francisco, in Ashbury Park, in Orlando, in your curd-cut sequin skirt, on the pulsing purple dance floor, in the sweltering bathroom stall, through the parking lot when the streetlights hushed. You let me kiss you on the mouth, on your neck, up your arm, against the cold brick, to the DJ's disco track. You let me kiss you with my hands in your hair at the first lesbian bachelorette party, when your song spun the walls, before last call, before the cops kicked down the doors, until you became violet. You let me kiss you when the queen struck us up with her pearl boa in your emerald suit on stage once. You let me kiss you after you begged for it, after you pleaded, after we saw 2 other girls tethered at the lips, one girl's thigh between the other's hip, their slow grind a mirror of your womb. You let me kiss you in the smoky alleyway, in the Pontiac, in the place you felt most free, the place you felt most invisible. You let me kiss you, dark, hard, hauntingly. I wanted you to kiss me back. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, let's keep this reading going. Up next, we have Esther Okonkwo.
Thank you, Amanda, for this wonderful gathering. Thank you for Novus for making this happen. I'll be reading an excerpt of my novel in progress. It's titled Remember. The plot is really long, so I'm going to start from the beginning. And this first few pages just sort of introduce you to the characters. It's a war novel, but with most war novels, it's also about family, about betrayal, about love. So this first page is well deserved. 2017, Grace. The house welled out of the earth like a scream. Round, wide, and tall, and with an eerie holiness to it. The sisters, Luther, Grace, 16 and 15, and the friend Bidemi stood staring at it for a while. Before Luther, the one was naturally inclined to lead, twisted the knob, and spread the door open. Inside, the house looked even more like an upward vortex. It had a sunroof tinted a light blue, and the furniture, arranged in a circle, dark blue suede couches, a glass center table, a large potted bamboo plant, seemed intentionally placed to accentuate its cathedral effects. What was Daddy thinking? Luther said to Grace. Grace shrugged, turned towards the framed picture of their father, a big gray man wearing a white kaftan and a red shea cap. She was not surprised by the excess of the house. Her father loved making statements. The girls walked upstairs, entering room after room, all of them designed the same. Spacious, dark, their windows facing the forest. They had queen-sized beds, wardrobes the hexagon shape of a coffin, bathrooms with large bathtubs. The master bedroom, larger than all 6 bedrooms, allowed some sunlight. It had a king-size bed, a walk-in closet, and a balcony from where one could see the empty, untarred road leading into the mansion. Bidemi and I would stay in this room, Luther declared, plopping on the tightly made king-size bed. And you, Grace, you stay in the room next to us. Bidemi, nodding in agreement, joined Luther on the bed. Grace pressed her tongue to the bridge of her mouth, but held back from clicking irritably. Bidemi, of course, agreed. Recently, she swallowed Luther's every utterance with the fervor of a paid employee. I don't want to sleep alone, Grace said. Luther turned to Bidemi, her jaw drawn towards her neckbone, her brows raised as if to say incredulous. She then giggled, prompting Bidemi to giggle too, but nervously. Listen, you can't be in the same room with us, Luther said. The things we discuss. She shook her head. You're not just there yet. But, Grace said, Luther interjected, the bed is not big enough, simple. Now please go downstairs and bring up our bags. Grace glared at Luther. Luther glared back. Bidemi, her eyes wet with discomfort, stood up and said she would go with Grace to grab her bags. Outside, the sun beating back the back of their necks. Bidemi put an arm around Grace and said not to mind Luther. She just likes to be in charge, Bidemi said. I don't even want to share a bed with her, Grace replied, lifting the bag from the carpet. She smells like a generator. This house is just weird and scary, and I don't want to sleep alone. Don't worry, we're here for just 6 days, and then we would leave. Grace dropped the bag on the ground, raising a small cloud of dust. Truly, Bidemi, you're okay with this, she said. I don't like this plan at all. The plan. They would rest on day 1. On day 2, Bidemi would be administered the misoprostol, On day 3, 4, and 5, she would bleed heavily, spend most of the time on bed rest. On day 6, still bleeding lightly but well recovered, they would head back to their campus in Oka. No one would ever know what happened. When Luther first proposed this plan on a Tuesday evening, while all 3 of them crouched on the floor of Luther's and Grace's one-bedroom hostel apartment, Grace sprang on her feet. "Why can't we give Bidemi the pills here in the hostel?" Grace said. "Have you had an abortion before?" Luther said. Her nose flared, bulbous and stubby like a hard-boiled egg. Grace opened her mouth but said nothing. "I thought so," Luther said, and then turned to Bidemi. "Look, I know what I'm doing. The process is painful. I don't want you crying and attracting attention. In this hostel, it's not hard at all for stupid gossips to start poking their nose in our business. In our father's village house, you can cry and scream freely, and no one would hear. I know what I'm saying, but at the end of the day, it's your choice. You can say no and decide to have this baby and ruin your future." So here they were, in the middle of July, in a small village in southeastern Nigeria, which, according to their father, who took a strange pride in the place, was currently home to no more than 100 people, with a few hundred of its people scattered around the country, and a little less than 100, mostly young men and women, living outside the country. The village, thick with vegetation, dotted with lakes and rivers, invoked in Grace the sensation of outsideness, of being apart from the world. It was not simply that it was quiet. Now, as Grace slapped shut the car book, the sound sliced nothing but the chorale of birds and insects in the forest nearby. But it had so little human life present. The houses they had driven past on their way here were made of mud, their roof of thatches, and showed no signs of being inhabited. There were no electric poles about, no cars or motorcycles. The one person they encountered on their drive, a man on a bicycle wearing a straw hat, had looked quickly away when they waved at him. Grace, who was last year when she was 6, did not remember the village being this empty. Then her grandmother Kaka was still alive. Perhaps it was her grandmother's energy that pumped life into the slumber village. But she remembered people trooping into the house, sitting around waiting for food and drinks. "My dad did kill me anyway," Bidemi said now, wiping sweat from her forehead. "So whatever happens to me here doesn't make a difference to anything." So I'm reading from the perspective now of the other sister, Luther. And there's just a little tangent. Luther could not follow the novel. She kept rereading the same paragraph. In about an hour, she'd have to administer the pill to Bidemi. She knew how. The doctor she'd gone to last year, a man in his late 30s, who'd invited her to his house because it was illegal for him to do the procedure at the hospital, had asked her to touch herself first. He said to her to get wet. He said it would make it easier to insert the pill in her vagina. He sat watching her rub herself. He then asked if he could help, and she said yes because she was scared. He rubbed her, kissed her, put a finger inside her, and then inserted the pill and gave her 2 to swallow. When the pain came exactly an hour after she'd left his damp apartment with its dim lights and cold concrete floor, she was grateful. The pain bathed her in a moist, sharp sensation. He raised the feel of his fingers on her thighs. This was what she wanted to save Bidemi from, his shoveling fingers, the sight of his satisfied, stretched lips. And she'd like to tell Bidemi this, tell her about the entire experience. But his memory still brought her shame. She could not see why. She knew very well that she'd done nothing wrong, and she did not exactly feel changed by the experience. She did not feel broken, as she'd heard several girls claim after an assault. She was maybe a little bit upset that the doctor had an unpleasant face, with his large bald head and crossed eyes, and the slimy feeling about him, moving with the reluctant speed of a turtle, speaking like he had water in his mouth. She was maybe more than a little bit upset that she had to do as he said, that she was at his mercy. But that was it. When he smiled at her before closing the door in her face, it was whoever would marry him she pitied. She pities his future kids. To wake up every day and see that face, that smile, that was the real hell. At about 1:30, the girls gathered in the master bedroom. Bidemi laid on the bed, wearing a loose-fitted floral dress. Grace stood by the headboard, holding a glass of water. Luther sat at the edge of the bed, between Bidemi's open legs. She handed her 2 pills, and with a little force planted the remaining pills in her vagina. It felt strange, muscly, murky. She looked up, watched as Grace handed the glass of water to Bidemi. Bidemi swallowed the pills, her lips pressed together as if in defiance of her fear. To loosen the tenseness in the room, Luther said, laughing gratingly, "If I catch that poor boy, I will break his head." Paul, the boy who had gotten Bidemi pregnant. He did not know what they were up to. Bidemi had kept the news of the pregnancy from him, afraid that he'd insist she keep it. His parents, like Bidemi's, were staunch Anglicans. "I'm serious," Luther said. "Can you imagine? He's chilling somewhere, and you're the one who has to bear the consequences for the act that the both of you enjoyed." She emphasized enjoyed. "I didn't even enjoy it," Bidemi said, between tearful sniffs. "I don't even like sex. It's dry and uncomfortable and useless." "You're not supposed to enjoy it," Luther replied, rubbing her knees. "Like when he's doing it, it's for him. But when he's finished, he's supposed to focus on you, touch you and stuff." Bidemi sighed and closed her eyes. "When will I start to feel something?" she said. "I'm not feeling anything." Luther took her gaze to Bidemi's small feet, toenails painted in mellow blue. How she wanted to hold them. Still they are trembling. "You will feel something soon," Luther said, with a wistfulness she thought excessive. So she added, "And before you know it, it will all be over. Thank you."
Thank you. Please welcome next to the mic, D.W. McKinney.
Good evening, everyone. I'll be reading a selection from my memoir in progress, which is called The Knowing, and it's about my obsessive compulsive disorder. This is from the first chapter, which starts in 1990 when I was 5. The old white woman haunted my grandparents' backyard. That's what my grandfather claimed. I never saw her because I refused to step foot in the yard in the evening. But my grandfather talked about the old white woman like they were good friends, like he saw her all the time. "She's out there waiting," the grandpa said, "just moaning about this and that." When my grandfather spoke to me about the old white woman, it was always after dark, and always when my grandmother was in another room. His stories unsettled me, but the moment my grandmother fell asleep on her recliner after Final Jeopardy, I would tiptoe through the darkened rooms of their house toward my grandfather's den. Full wood panels covered the walls in his room. Mismatched furniture swallowed the space. Near the door was a low bookshelf where dusty liquor bottles competed for shelf space alongside jugs of apple juice and likely expired canned goods. I would stand in the den's honey light just over the threshold, waiting until my grandfather saw me. The cold air would bite through the thin cheap carpeting to nip the soles of my sock-covered feet. After a long day repairing appliances around town, Grandpa sat on his black leather couch against the far wall. His work shirt, stained with sweat and grease, was unbuttoned, revealing a patch of chest hair peeking out from the top of his undershirt. Newspapers were scattered across the couch cushions beside him. Broken walnut shells flecked the carpet around his feet. Depending on the time of night, when I braved his day, Grandpa would either have television turned to the evening news, or the TV set was long cold, and he was instead reading his Bible. Whatever my grandfather was doing, though, the moment he noticed me, he gave me his full attention. By way of greeting, he said, "Close that door and sit down a spell, won't you?" Closing the door meant mischief, and it also meant catching Grandma's ire. But when she was asleep, I tried not to slam the door shut in my excitement and wake her up. I didn't want anything to stop me from having that little bit of fun Grandpa was offering me. After I closed the door, I would sit across from him, perched on the edge of a caramel ottoman, ready to flee when his folktales became too scary. He always began by asking, "Did I ever tell you about Paints?" I would nod and say, "Look, you can tell me again, Grandpa." He'd say, "Paints they're like ghosts. Sometimes they eat you, or bother you with such things, give you trouble." He knew that they hung out in swamps and bayous and wooded areas. They were devilish entities. They could be an unchecked evil hid in solid form. Shivers crawled up my spine as I asked him about them. I was 5 years old without enough sense to know I shouldn't be listening to my grandfather's stories about wicked ghosts. Each word dragged them up from the thickets and pine forests of Okaloosa, Louisiana, where he left them behind decades ago before he moved west. But my grandfather was eager to fill my head with mention of conjure women and boogeymen, and I was eager to learn more about what could snatch me up when I wasn't watching. "Tell me about that woman," I would ask. My grandfather would chuckle and lean back in his couch to tell me about the history of the old white woman, or he'd screech and growl in imitation of her until I begged him to stop. On one unremarkable night, I asked him, as I always did, "Tell me about that woman." This time, my grandfather leaned forward and pierced me with his gaze. He frowned. "What woman?" he asked. "You know what woman, Grandpa," I said. He only shook his head and looked at me. Discomfort swelled in my stomach. I repeated the question in my head, turning it over and over again in my mind as my grandfather stared at me. Had I misspoken? Was I confused? Were we talking about paints just now? While I struggled to find a mistake, a voice whispered in the back of my mind, "He doesn't know what you're talking about. You're a liar. There's no one. You made it on your own." I knew my grandfather had told me about that woman many times, but the voice sounded so sure, so true. It unleashed a peculiar uncertainty inside me. I was too self-conscious to tell my grandfather about the voice and my own self-doubtfulness. But still, this was my grandfather. If I made a mistake, he would gently correct me without causing embarrassment. So I tried again. "You know what woman, Grandpa," I said. I pointed to the window behind him. "That old woman out there." "Ah, yes," he said. "That old white woman, yes, that old hang out there." I didn't know if he had been pulling my leg, as he called it, or if we'd both been confused, but that uncomfortable moment was quickly brushed away. The Louisiana in my grandfather slipped in and out of his words. "That old white woman, she lives up in the backyard out there, under the house out there, yeah. She comes out at night, just back there wandering around." He cracked more walnuts and watched me, staring out the window behind him. He smiled, and I knew he saw the fear in me as I waited for the old white woman to jump into view any minute. That strange voice muttered from the back of my mind, "She's gonna eat you. Stop looking at the window. Close your eyes before she sees you." I couldn't turn away. I stared straight ahead, unblinking, my body trembling. "What else, Grandpa? What else does she do?" "I guess she eats kids," he said. "I'm not sure, but she's right out there. Under the house, so you better be careful." He laughed at that. "But my grandbaby is good, right? You don't have to worry about that, bitch." When my grandmother finished speaking, it seemed the room had widened and I had shrunk. His words had peeled back my skin, leaving me ripe for a ghastly creature to eat. I shuddered as I imagined the old white woman's house. I passed it every time I played outside in the backyard. It was in the foundation of my grandparents' house, directly underneath the guest room that I refused to sleep in. The entrance was marked by a crooked red door hooked into the foundation. Next to the door was a hole about the size of a missing brick. Mesh covered the hole, and it had the uncanny appearance of a small window. I often stood in the light of day looking at this hole from afar, waiting to catch a glimpse of old white woman's rotten eyes staring back at me. When my grandfather stopped talking about the old white woman, the voice in my head filled in the silence. The old white woman growled at night. The old white woman clung to the shadows. The old white woman watched and waited for me. These became my truths. The voice never let me forget them. And it often reminded me about these truths after sunset, whenever I stayed at my grandparents' house. When dusk fell, my grandmother stopped whatever chore she was working on and bustled from room to room. She drew the curtains and shades closed on every window, except for one of my grandfather's did, until we were shuttered away from the world. With every drawn shade, darkness grew inside the house. Grandma refused to turn on any extra lamps when I begged her. "You aren't afraid of the dark, are you?" she asked. I wasn't. But I had already begun to doubt its safety. I had begun to doubt that the dark was just the absence of light, and I had the feeling that it held something altogether more terrifying than I could imagine. I didn't say these things to my grandmother, though. She wouldn't understand, and would instead purse her lips and file away the information, only to later share it on the phone with her sisters in Alabama. So I shook my head and accepted her declaration that there was no need to turn on the lights, because we weren't staying in the room for long. My toes tapped the backs of her heels as I hurried behind her from room to room. The whispering began in my head as we surrounded ourselves in darkness. Grandma seemed oblivious to the shadows gathering in the corners and stretching from underneath the beds as she shut out the dimming light. But an urgency belied my grandmother's evening ritual that extended beyond the need for simple privacy. I once asked her, "Why do you close the curtains?" "You don't know who's looking in here when it's dark," she said. Her hands were still clutching the curtains on the living room window. She parted them enough to peer out into the darkened driveway, curving toward the street below. We could be sitting up here, windows open, and you wouldn't even know who's standing out there looking in, watching us. To her, the people looking in from the dark were always men. I didn't yet understand why a man would make my grandmother fearful. I didn't yet know the damage a man could do to a woman or a young girl's body, or the horrors that could be done in the dark. Yet the idea that people could be watching us, that they would watch us, lashed inside me. It hadn't occurred to me that this could happen, and now it was all I could think about. Whenever I peered outside into the night, these thoughts bubbled up in my mind. I tried to smother them, but I couldn't. Instead, I listened when words rose up in my mind and spoke strange truths. "You need to hide. You're not safe. It's coming to get you." What it was, I didn't know, but I held my breath against it. I drew inward and hoped that it would not find me before the sun rose again in the morning. Thank you.
Y'all feel it? All right, let's keep it going. We're gonna welcome now Sandra Jackson-Opoku and these incredible actors.
Y'all. Hey. It's so great to be here with you. This year, 2024, and next year, 2025, mark the centennial celebrations of two iconic mid-century American writers. The Black Harlem, iconic novelist, playwright, and nonfiction writer, activist, James Jimmy Baldwin. White Southern novelist and fiction writer, Flannery O'Connor. That's okay, I'm not mad. So Never Georgia imagines what might have happened if the two had actually met. Act 1, Scene 1. At Rise and Darkness, it's the summer of 1960. The chug and whistle of a locomotive is heard as it pulls into the station.
Now arriving at Brambleberry Station, all passengers for Brambleberry, New York, please prepare to all light.
Lights up on Brambleberry Station. A train arrives, the door opens, and a duffel bag is tossed out. The slim, slight figure of 36-year-old James Jimmy Baldwin, wearing a newsboy cap, any color but red, pops out. After it, he picks up the bag, walks to a bench, sits down, and lights a cigarette. After a beat, Flannery O'Connor slowly climbs down from the train. Although a year younger than Jimmy, she moves like a much older woman or someone in a great deal of pain. Her bags are handed out after her, but she makes no move to gather them.
All aboard the northbound Vermonter. All aboard.
My Lord, what a scorcher. And people think Georgia's some kind of hot. Where's a red cap when you need one?
Flannery looks around and catches sight of Jimmy sitting and smoking on the bench. She flutters her handkerchief at him.
You, oh red cap. You, boy, over here.
Are you speaking to me?
I need some help over here, if you please.
She points to her luggage. Jimmy struggles between annoyance and politeness. His manners went out. He goes over and picks up her bags.
Where do you want these?
So that bench over there will do just fine. I'll be a better place to see when my ride arrives.
Jimmy places Flannery's bags next to his, then points gallantly to the bench. Flannery sits, takes a coin from her purse, and offers it to Jimmy. She is visibly taken aback when he waves it away, sits at the other end of the bench, continuing to smoke his cigarette.
You sure you won't accept a tip? Well, aren't you just too kind? I'm Miss O'Connor, by the way. What name do you go by?
I'm James, but friends call me Jimmy.
And do you always do that, James?
You what, Miss O'Connor?
Smoke in front of a lady. I fail to see what's so amusing.
Which is it that bothers you? The sheer temerity of a man like me smoking in front of a lady, or smoking in front of white folks.
No harm done, really. You put out the cigarette and I thank you for it. Temerity, I must say, you're awfully well spoken for a...
Well spoken for a Negro.
No, not at all for a red cap. Your diction is uncommonly proper.
I imagine it would be for a red cap.
Jimmy takes a closer look at Flannery.
I do believe I recognize you. Flannery O'Connor, if I'm not mistaken.
Why, yes, that I am. But you have me at a disadvantage, James. Have we met?
Never in Georgia.
I don't know what it means.
Your birthplace, Georgia. Segregated Georgia. Backward, Negro lynching, hellhole.
And now, wait just a minute. You see here.
You do recall our mutual acquaintance, Kentucky playwright Mary Adams. She thought we might connect during my civil rights tour of the South last year. Your response: mules would fly before I could James Baldwin in Georgia. Or something to that effect.
So it's you then. The famous Negro writer James Baldwin. I should have known. Though, to be perfectly honest, I did say I would be willing to meet you in New York.
And here we are. Not New York City, but close enough.
I dare say. You found yourself rather far from Harlem.
No farther than you are from Georgia. A good deal closer than that.
I never thought to cross paths with James Baldwin and Brambleberry of all places. What brings you to this little sleepy hamlet?
The same thing as you, I expect.
Oh, my. The Brambleberry Arts Colony? You're not a guest artist, are you?
I'm afraid so, Miss O'Connor.
So, we're to be housemates for the next few weeks. I am pleased to make your acquaintance, Mr. James Baldwin, in New York.
Flannery slowly extends her right hand to Jimmy. Jimmy regards the outstretched hand a beat before taking it.
Charmed, I'm sure.
An automobile is heard pulling up to the station.
I believe our chariot has arrived.
Jimmy grabs his duffel and heads toward the car, then looks back to see Flannery standing near her bags. He turns back.
Don't bother yourself, Mr. Baldwin. I'm sure the chauffeur will see to these.
Ignoring her, Jimmy picks up the bags and carries them to the car off stage.
I thank you very kindly, Mr. James Baldwin. And I really ought to have known better. Why, his cat isn't red.
Flannery follows Jimmy out to the car. Act 1, Scene 2, lights up. Soft spot on Jimmy's bedroom as he awakens from a nap, yawning and tossing the rumpled bedclothes aside. He begins unpacking his duffel bag, putting away his wardrobe of casual clothing. Then he brings out several notebooks, an assortment of pens and pencils, and a bottle of brandy. Arranging them on the desk, he takes the water glass from the washstand, sits it on his desk, sits down and begins to write, longhand. Meanwhile, simultaneously, spot on Flannery's bedroom. A large crucifix is propped on her nightstand, a set of rosary beads draped across the bedpost. She massages and flexes her hands, inserts a blank page, and begins typing at the old-fashioned typewriter on her desk.
To Hazel Elizabeth Hester, Atlanta, Georgia. My dear Betty, why has no one told me upstate New York can be so downright steamy? Why, this hot weather puts my little dusty little farmstead in Milledgeville to shame. Speaking of Georgia, I can't imagine why Mary Atlee thought to share my private sentiments with that infamous rabble-rouser, James Baldwin. They were never meant for anyone's ears but hers. These Yankee literati always already suspect I'm some kind of backwoods, race-mongering redneck. If word got out I was shunning a Negro rider, dear God, they'd make a veritable mystery of my life and upset the appetite of all my entire riding career. Yes, Betty, Mr. James Jimmy Baldwin is here in attendance at Brambleberry, living in the same house, eating off the same plate, and using the same perfume. My mother back home in Georgia would be quite appalled. I suppose I could object to sharing close quarters with him, but I doubt it would do any good. I'm quite the integrationist in my head, though in my heart of hearts, I will admit, I'm not overly fond of those people, especially this new breed. Quite full of himself, this James Baldwin, pulling $50 words out of a hat where 50 cents will do, and the insults he leveled at our beloved state of Georgia, while they dare not repeat. How a respectable Southerner like Mary Atlee would have anything to do with the likes of him, I'm sure I'll never know.
Lights fade on Flannery, spot on Jimmy, writing at his desk. Every now and then he refills his glass from the brandy bottle.
To Lorraine Hansberry, Greenwich Village, New York. My dear sweet Lorraine, yes, I'm sure of it. A good word from that literary critic among critics has everything to do with my invitation to Brambleberry. Lionel Trilling is more than generous, but calling me one of the best and most promising men of his generation, other people's expectations could be so tiresome. I decamped at Brambleberry this afternoon, had a late lunch of vegetable soup and ham sandwich, a nip of brandy from my private stash, at which point I felt the need of a long nap. Now it's eventide. I already miss the hubbub of Carver. I'm trying to get used to these confounded country noises, the crickets, the bird calls, the wind playing in the leaves. I had quite an amusing encounter at Brambleberry Station. Ran into Flannery, Miss O'Connor, if you please. Ever so stingingly polite. She's the kind of white folk my mother used to call nice nasty. Can you believe the woman mistook me for a railway red hat? She actually asked me to see after her bags. I carried them, of course. My people raised me with manners, if nothing else. Though the lady did sorely test my patience. O'Connor is not your typical Southern belle. In fact, she's quite frail and frumpy. She kept mopping her face with a hanky, complaining of the heat. Lorraine, it's scarcely 75 degrees up here in the office. I couldn't tell if O'Connor's neck was red. Her face certainly was. I wonder if she was stricken with some kind of fever. So nice of you and Bob to see me off at Penn Station this morning. I know you're no longer together, just glad you're both so damn civilized about it. Bob is quite proud of you. The prospects for your amazing play are raising in the sun. Still, I've known the truth for quite some time. Lorraine Hansberry is not the kind of woman made to love any man, just as I'm not the man made to love a woman. I can only say what a friend once told me. Go the way your blood beats. And I know which way your blood beats, sweet Lorraine. Wish me luck on this new novel. It's to be set in my Harlem, your Greenwich Village, and over the pond in Paris. I'm still wrestling with the themes of it. Interracial love, heterosexual and homosexual longing, the no man's land in between. What do you think of the title, Another Country?
Lights dim.
All right, there we go. Woo, let's keep it going for our next fellow. Up next, we have Deborah Deep Mouton.
What's up? How y'all doing? I'm super excited today to be reading from my work in progress. It's a new novel. It's crazy because if anyone knows me, you know me, I'm for poetry, typically, but it's been great to play in another form. It is tentatively called The Mothers of Bloom. I wanted to create a speculative fiction novel that imagines what happens if Black women whose children have been taken from them get a chance to have them back. The city hadn't stopped moving. Long stretches of highway buzz and jackhammer sung until endless hours of the night. Traffic horns, the rodeo caravans clogged up the West Loop freeway, thick southern drawl at full volume. Everybody seemed to have somewhere to be. Downtown skyscraper, Tinsley Park, school pickup line, the H-E-B grocery, even it grooved to the pulse of folks too busy to look up. Wrangling netted bags full of brown gold shrimp, flicking greenhouse melons and expecting a summer's hollow callback, impatient, bumping bodies to pay faster, express lines, self-checkout, whatever got it done. Aisles moved with the chaos of a coming hurricane, but this moment was out of season. And there, where the current of returning carts bent a single body, held hostage by the community board that sprawled across the wall next to the customer service desk. Blessing Hargrove, pushpin. Her small frame drowned beneath an oversized tan trench coat that barely covered the floral pajamas that peeked from under her lapel. Her disheveled edges tucked back under a black scarf that she twisted into a styleless stairway. The store hummed around her with urgency. A rush no longer real or driving for blessing. None of it really mattered anyhow. Not the man who sniffed the ripeness out of every delicious in the produce section. Not the hair-netted woman who measured pounds of paper-wrapped meat in the deli. Not the mother who claimed the custom cake from the glass display, or the children who buzzed around her feet while she tried to correct the baker's spelling. It was all a show. A facade of normalcy pushing around blessing as she craved rejoining the current of hands snatching cereal boxes off high shelves and knees bent to reach the gluten-free granola that was always sold out until a hidden bag at the back of the bottom shelf was found. She could almost hear Darius's voice calling out the joy of discovery. Mama, I found one! Celebrating as he climbed up her leg and back into the basket. The small, tawny boy who used to bounce at her hip, adding candy and chips to the cart when he thought she wasn't looking. A misshapen afro over a snackle-toothed smile, the front two baby teeth already gone. A row of returning carts flashed behind her, quieting his voice once again. It pulled his body into the vanishing side of things. She wanted to move forward, but the moment she turned the corner and saw his eyes, hazel and curious, no longer riding shotgun in the basket, but posted still on the bulletin board under the missing banner. She couldn't move. It was as if someone poured invisible cement and she stepped in ankle high. And nothing mattered anymore. Not the baseline of items that rang at checkout, not money saved or money earned. The world could keep pretending that it was moving, but blessing knew better. The earth stopped spinning the day Darius disappeared, and no one could convince her otherwise. When her little boy's picture was posted 6 weeks ago, there were only a handful of other faces like his. But now, the wall of missing seemed to be ever expanding. Some pictures ripped from school day photo sessions. A few other families paid for the local service that showed you what your child would look like after a decade of wandering. Mothers held hope for an endless stretch of time, but now the faces stretched across half a wall. A billboard of brown-toned children who never came home, who were snatched in public or last seen with a loved one. Blessing's eyes briefly broke its gaze to dance across their names. Latavia Jackson, missing at age 5, last seen in the back of a brown 4-door sedan speeding down Belfort. Sasha Evers, Missing at age 14, last seen walking home from school after band practice holding a black violin case with gold beads in her braids. Mateo Williams, missing at age 5, same as her boy. Not much more than a picture and a number to call for more information. Some never reported. Some briefly made the news like Darius. Blessing convinced the local investigative reporter to pick up the story one night when the news cycle was slow. A series of 10-second clips that flashed his picture and urged anyone who knew something to contact the local authorities. They played for a few weeks, but his neighbors weren't the kind prone to voluntarily inviting the police to know their names. Sharing his face on social media only got so far. Private messages of false leads and pedophiles awakened to make remarks so disturbing that it forced her to turn off the comments. People would rally but offer no usable insight out of the pity. This flyer, the one that now took the center row in a collage of brown faces, was Blessing's last resort. Her family and friends plastered them in every vacant space they could, but nothing came from it. Week after week of misdirections until the world gained interest in another name and moved on. But now, she was pinned there, just like her boy. Stuck to the corkboard, lost. She stared back at his face, floating there in the sea of children until a copper-skinned woman appeared next to her. She was taller than Blessing, but not by much. Her natural black curls dangled halfway down her back, and she clutched a small black purse in her hands. She fumbled for something inside, oblivious to Blessing who watched on. She retrieved a tissue, which she blotted her nose quickly before extending her hand to the board in front of them and landing on a picture of Mateo. Mijo. She pulled the flyer from the board and pressed it against her lips before holding it tightly against her chest. Your son? Blessing questioned. My everything. How long has he been missing? Time stops when your child is dead. She inhaled deeply before turning to Blessing, but I'm sure you know that. Their eyes finally took in the fullness of each other before the woman tore her glance away and fixated back on the wall of faces before them. So, he's yours? Blessing, struggling to hold on to her composure, extended her hand to touch Darius's smile. He's only been gone a few weeks. I know he's still out there, but they won't continue to look. The women finished Blessing's thought. They said they've done all they can do. The woman rolled her eyes before responding. Not every child can go viral, right? What's that supposed to mean? Blessing cut her eyes at the woman. I saw your boy at the news. He's not dead, Blessing quickly responded. Might as well be to them, the woman echoed back. They never seemed to have a mother's stamina to do that. Blessing shook her head as the woman dropped her son's picture into her purse and tightened her jacket to brace for the outside chin. So, you giving up? Just like that, Blessing questioned? No, just finding a new way forward. Headed to Bloom. Unincorporated Houston? Out there in the sticks, Blessing scoffed. There's nothing out there but magnolia trees and dust. You know, they said the mob runs deep in those woods. The woman leaned in, putting her hand on Blessing's shoulder before her voice crept out like a secret. They say, when you want to get something no one believes is missing, you'll give anything, even go when the miracle's real. What's that got to do with Bloom? Don't tell me you believe the hype. Blessing cracked disbelief smile, but the woman's searing face almost turned her to stone. Believe what you will, pero mano a Dios, las viejas say stolen children seem to find their way back there, and I believe them. It may take one season, it may take 17, but if their mother waits for them long enough, they will come. The woman let her hand fall down to Blessing, squeezing it tight for reassurance before she turned to walk away, but Blessing held on. But if he went missing from here, how will we know to find you there? I have to believe in something or I won't believe in anything. The woman dropped her eyes and turned, never glancing back, fading behind the closing glass. Bloom? Blessing knew believing any ridiculous rumor wasn't going to bring her son back. But there is something about desperation that makes the ridiculous possible. The impossible seemed inevitable. Blessing tried to shake it, but it only seemed to conjure curiosity closer. And before she knew it, a new answer was echoing everywhere she looked.
All right, let's keep it going for Meredith King.
Okay. Can y'all hear me? Yeah. All right. Okay. Thank you so much, and thank you so much to these lovely people inside on stage. I appreciate you. Okay. My name is Meredith L. King, and I am going to read to you from a section, a chapter in my upcoming hybrid memoir that tackles death, memory, and generational trauma through experiences in liminal spaces, like a pandemic relationship that is toxic and an inpatient psychiatric facility. And so the section I'm about to read to you is actually in an inpatient psychiatric facility, so that's all the context it should be. The unicorn, 6 months after. When I finally meet the unicorn, his horn flops and shrivels like a limp geriatric penis in a world without little blue pills and direct-to-consumer marketing. Everything about him sags, even his nose hairs, and his skin is a pock-marked graveyard where glitter goes to die. Meredith? My nod is imperceptible, but I follow him into a small room in the center of the unit that has glass on 3 sides and is usually locked to us patients. When I remember it, I think of the concept of a panopticon, a design for institutional buildings that has a central tower in the middle and a surrounding circle of prisoners who can be locked in individual rooms. It is the original Mordor with an all-seeing eye in the middle that swivels to surveil the entire structure. Surveillance equals control. But the flaw in a panopticon is that human heads do not easily and swiftly swivel 360 degrees. Eventually, any all-seeing eye that relies on human vision will have blind spots that make them vulnerable, and worse, that can make them lose their place at the top of the hierarchy. The prisons that got hit to this vulnerability learned to put towers, guards, and nurses stations in places where they can never fully be surrounded by the enemy. Places where they can watch on 3 sides, but retreat if need be. Places like this, where the enemies are me. The door locks when I step inside. For him, it means none of the people he barely hides his disgust for can come in unprompted. Unicorns are not genies, and yet they're the only beings in this place that can grant our collective wish for escape. For me, it means there's another way in which I am locked in. My breath quickens. I put my hands inside of my pajama pants and I push my fingernails into my thighs until they leave marks. Don't panic. Always sit where you can see the door. He opens my file. Okay, ER to hospitals here. Well, it's a pretty nice facility, so you could do worse. A red flag bleeds out of his nostril, just enough for me to notice. He wipes it away without a tissue. I think I might like mermaids better than unicorns. The value of a unicorn is in its mane, its tail, its titles and degrees. That's what keeps it unique, rare, longed for. The preservation of the image of good to which the rest of us can only aspire and beg for moments of. But this is nasty business. And glorified horses who fall in line and go where they are told will always be useless to me. Mermaids understand the drowning and teach their kin how to breathe underwater. I think that's what I need. But all I've learned so far is how to pretend the call of drown deep isn't there, and it isn't working. The unicorn flips a page and then stops. Wow, he says, rearing back in his chair. And this is where he reveals the thing that creeps under my fingernails, pokes talons in my eyes, and haunts me from inside. The thing I most want to bury beneath the core of the earth. You went to school at Static. An incredible grace, not the same grace as full-bodied, lung-emptied escape, but still stillness. Some things deserve to be lost in transmission. Not like our typical client, he says. Fascinating how a psychiatric hospital across the street from an elite university is surprised to see one of its students as patient. Where the hell are all the other students who shattered going to be repaired? Nails and thighs, nails and thighs, nails and thighs. How did you end up here? He says, without looking at her. I tear a gash in my right thigh, pull out my skeleton bone by bone like a clown's never-ending handkerchief, and fold myself into the empty hole, neat, like a hand towel in a black auntie's linen closet. What does this question mean? What was I treated for at the ER? Or why did someone who looks good on paper have to go to the ER at all? The second question feels easier to boil into one sentence. Men brought me here. God men, beast men, unicorn men, men aged in oak barrels and rolled in corn husks, men made from ghosts, men who smoke nightmares with Hennessy, men who bleed, men disgusted by it, American men, colonized men, men who try, men who destroy, men who wish they were men, and men who thought they were. At every turn, there they were. Don't get me wrong, I like men. The way they smell like leather, sweat, and if I'm lucky, Irish spring soap. The way even the ones who lack confidence move as if the air belongs to them. The way their chest hair feels like puppet strings in my hands. Whether it blankets like a bear or curls up and sprouts sparsely like taco meat. How a girl that they find ugly can learn their tells, making myself an arbitrage opportunity that pays dividends in free alcohol, flirtation, and late night escorts they'd rather give to someone else. I like watching them, studying them, understanding how to beat them at their own game, like studying the patterns of a broken clock so that you can take it apart and make it work the way you need it to. But I'm never sure I want them as much as I'm supposed to. As a species, I find them reckless. And I am a delicate piece of china that is only meant to be used on special occasions. Even so, I don't look delicate enough to receive the treatment I deserve. And even male attempts at kindness feel like clumsy accidents I should be forever grateful for. I'm not. I'm disgusted. Mostly with myself. I do not tell the unicorn this. Meredith, when he looks up, his eyes are the color of toilet water after a tiny bowl blue cleaning tablet has all but disintegrated and has one good flush left. Sometimes the joke's right. He wants words I cannot deliver. It's not that I can't think of any, my brain has plenty. Like a swarm of bees protecting the frontal lobe clean. It's the speaking them that's hard. The words, sometimes they tingle in my throat. The letters scramble over each other and skitter to the corners like cockroaches running from the light. My cockroach words make people even more aghast at the pedigrees, but really, I'm telling one myself. The ivory tower is nothing but cockroaches. He turns a page in a thin file I'm not allowed to see. Tell me what brought you here. Maybe the first question will be easier to tackle. Remember the final scene of Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, where a grief-stricken Jen glides off the top of Wudang Mountain into an elegant, moving tableau of pure white clouds and all-knowing bamboo trees. Anyone who dares to jump from the mountain God will grant his wish. Some people only ever see life and death, black and white, but they miss the in-between, the overs, unders, and gray spaces. They need, but dare not search for the moments where time stops, where rivers flow backwards, where women jump off mountaintops and float on chaise-longue clouds until they find a version of freedom in places the rest of us cannot go. I went looking for the gray space. That's how I got here. But I don't tell the unicorn that either. Thank you.
I know, right? Right? Oh my gosh. Okay, let's keep it going. We're gonna welcome up next Elizabeth Brown and the return of these incredible actors.
I'm going to be reading today from a work in progress feature called The Life and Crimes of Willis Carroll. It's a story set in a competitive American town hooked on horse racing. We meet our titular character, Willis Carroll, on a night out after her horse has won the biggest derby, upsetting the long-reigning champion, whose family breaks into her stables to enact revenge, injuring her horse one day before he's supposed to be sold. Exterior, Carroll homestead, porch, later that night. A wide porch, attached to a 3-story house, situated in front of a vast field of tall grass. The tall man from the bar is on the porch, seated next to an empty rocking chair.
One moment.
Willis elbows the porch door open and walks through carrying 2 glasses of cognac.
So, you really not a fan of horse racing?
That's what you do, right? Something with horses.
For the most part. See, tomorrow I have a bit of grooming to get through, and at some point that fence on the eastern side of the property needs rebuilding. Then sooner or later I'll have to repair the stables for winter.
Sounds like a lot.
It can be.
Exterior, Carroll homestead, outskirts, moments later. Seen far from above, 2 figures on horseback walk down the gravel road that leads to Willis's homestead. Exterior, Carroll homestead, porch continues.
It's not that bad.
Willis notices the 2 figures on horseback, but she can't make out who they are.
And when trouble comes around,
She reaches under her chair for a shotgun.
I'm ready.
The figure is a woman on horseback with a smaller woman riding between her legs, trot towards the porch. A second riderless, fidgety horse, Pontiac, trails behind them. Willis places her shotgun back under her chair.
Sorry to interrupt, cuz.
Arthur Hood, a tall woman wearing glasses strapped around her head, looks at the fidgety horse.
But, we wanted to bring him around as soon as we had the prognosis. Didn't expect y'all to come by this hour, but they came like a little. And this is Wendy, the baby. Oh, well, it's nice to meet you, Wendy. And thank you for bringing our Pontiac back for one last rodeo.
Exterior, Carroll homestead, backyard. A large yard with a white chicken coop, peeling paint, and a small horse pen, now occupied by the restless Pontiac.
So, what's wrong? When can I be back on the track? Well, we did a complete examination, while of course paying particular attention to Pontiac's front legs. There, we found what we believe to be the source of his issues. Both of his front legs are missing important tendons. Now, it appears as if the tissue was surgically separated. Now, obviously, he can stand and walk, but
setting him a tie.
Willis leans against the horse pen and watches Pontiac for a moment.
I'm sorry, cuz I wish there was something I could do.
Actually, there is something.
Exterior, Carroll Homestead, the next afternoon. Seen through the window, Willis cooks in the kitchen. In the background, a radio program plays and a microwave hums. Exterior, minivan road. Far away from the house, parked on a gravel road, a silver minivan with deeply tinted windows faces the house. Interior, minivan. Illuminated by battery-powered light attached to the ceiling, a chair in the middle of the van's hollowed-out rear is surrounded by a mess of books, laptops, notepads, and printers. Interior, minivan, front seat. Willis stands outside of the van facing the driver's side window.
You, Sean?
Yeah,
Nice to meet you, Sean.
same to you. Do we fill you in on how it works?
Mostly.
Good. I should have things back to you in 10 to 12
Days?
hours.
Willis pulls 3 Walmart gift cards from her pocket and hands them to Sean. He counts the cards and frowns.
You'll get the rest when I get my papers.
Exterior, Walmart parking lot, 1 hour later. A concrete grid of parking spaces with large light poles. Sean's minivan is parked far away from the lights. Interior, minivan, back seat. Sean sits on the chair in the minivan, setting up a 3D printer. He clicks the start button. The printer whirs select. Using its mechanical arm to draw an oval and another slightly larger oval on top of that. Satisfied, Sean swivels to the other side of the van with a small printing press. Sean places a sheet of heavyweight, high-grade paper on the press. He coats a rubber rolling pin with ink, then applies the ink to the press. He grabs the lever attached to the printing press and stands, leaning his weight onto the lever, forcefully stamping his design into the paper. He carefully lifts the lever, revealing a perfect copy of a Jockey Association Thoroughbred birth certificate with the name Velvet Storm printed on the top. Sean inspects his work, looking for defects and misalignments, but everything checks out. So Sean lays the fake certificate on the table and dry. In the background, a 3D printer displays a message, 0.1% complete. Interior, minivan, backseat, 2 hours later. Sean sleeps on the floor, stretched out on a twin-size memory foam topper. Interior, Douglasdale Racetrack, box suite, the next day. Inside the suite, overlooking the racetrack, through floor-to-ceiling windows, is Mr. Allen. Dressed to impress his own reflection, his version of business casual is a police vest, designer jeans, and cowhide boots. Behind them on a plush couch, his cousin Willis picks invisible dirt from her nails.
He said it'd be done by now, but I haven't heard from Sean since yesterday.
Martha, you vouch for him, right?
Yeah. She said it was reliable.
Then what else can we do besides wait and get our story straight to death?
Interior, Douglasdale Racetrack, box suite, evening. Mr. Allen and Willis watch from the suite window as teams pack their gear after a long day of practice.
I'm sure Desmond just got tied up.
A few moments later, Desmond and his partner enter the suite. Desmond Dale is one of those race guys who likes to downplay his wealth. But when he's on his grandfather's racetrack, he kind of likes how everyone treats him like royalty. Desmond travels from place to place, meeting interesting people, attending spiritual events, and collecting stories, hoping one of his excursions will make him feel something. But they never do.
Mr. Dale, how was Piacenza?
Good, thank you for asking. I'd say more, but I know we are running a bit behind and we've got the pilot waiting on the tarmac for the last hour, so I'll be as quick about this as I can.
Desmond's partner takes a seat on the couch and an attendant walks over to him to get his order.
Can you also have them send up a coffee?
The attendant nods.
What happened at the sale? Why was there no bid?
Well, we were still waiting for the figures from our analysts.
Analyst.
Yes, and he believes that we have the opportunity for an even greater return. I mean, it really was an open secret that Pontiac was never going to be a champion.
Just the top finish.
Exactly. But his son, Velvet Storm, runs faster than his father ever did.
And you never registered the poll.
Well, as we speak, an associate of ours is getting that paperwork ready.
Well, Lewis, you and Mr. Allen have never disappointed. I'm going to take this one very uncommon hiccup in our relationship as a pass. I still have full confidence that you can take my small investment and return what you promised to deliver last month.
The attendant returns with Desmond's coffee. Desmond takes a small sip, starts to place it back, but in memory of one of those past spiritual events, reminds him to waste not, so he downs the rest.
Very well. See you all after the next sale.
Desmond and his partner leave.
Wow.
I know. We might just pull this off yet.
All right, y'all, we have come to our final fellow for the evening. Let's keep that energy still in this room, yes? Welcome Destiny Hemphill to us.
So I have an experiment for y'all. I have to see if the experiment's gonna work in the spirit of risk and vulnerability. And so thank you for your generosity for witnessing the experiment either way. And if this doesn't work, then you'll become part of the experiment, okay?
You want to learn?
So before I begin, I wanted to give a very warm gratitude to Amanda, to Faith, to Brittany, to KM, and all of y'all, my fellow fellows. I'm a 7th generation Texan on my daddy's side, and a 5th generation Texan on my mama's side. And I haven't been home in Austin where I was born for a very long time. Home is complicated, but it is special to be returned this way, so thank you for the opportunity. So I'll be reading from my second poetry collection in progress, entitled Soma, the Living Oracles. And in that collection, I'm meditating on Black ecologies, disability, in the way that under empire, nature can be a source of refuge, but also a source of peril. And I've been feeling very languageless recently, and so something that's been part of my process has been making soundscapes as a way to metabolize grief and everything that exceeds language. So I'll be playing a soundscape as I read. schooling, for and with Danielle Fairford. In school, they did not learn me about the levee, or the river, or the lead, or the bloated bodies of Black folks languishing in the river. They did not learn me the difference between forest and plantation. They did not learn me how to trust the ocean to hold me because of how the hold still got a hold on me. Did not learn me how earth is more than land, nor Black life more than human. They did not learn me about that man, the one at the World Bank, who wanted to dump loads of toxic waste in LDCs. Though they learned me the logic and the lake. They learned me the lake, that it was fun to play at the lake, and that if you swim in it, you might feel something tugging you down by the leg, and they laugh, just a little at a little spook tale. They did not learn me the Black graveyards and towns they flooded out for the lake. Did not learn me poke salad for lymph, nor nettle leaf for liver. Did not learn me the loom that weaves earth and ether. Did not learn me of the kinship that proceeds in the conscription forged through colonial catastrophe. They did not learn me in old earth how they could never learn you. But I remember, yes, Lord, I remember the lingering. Full soul. I find you again, Mother Milleret, this time squatting under the cemetery pawpaw tree, surrounded by slivers of mirror, fruit flesh, mashed skin, wet nest of sweet rock. Sweat beads your nose, your wide cupid's bow like quicksilver. I join you under the canopy, balance on my sit bones, open my mouth, can only muster rustle and slow ease. You roll a bead of your sweat between pads of index and thumb, press a bead against my rib flare, another against my goiter that tends to come in winter, another against my mandible. Let's try this again, you say. I sputter and it all comes out, the silk, tobacco chew-hued liquid pooling behind fell fillings, whirls of sepals, deep red and loose purple. Is that the future? I ask. No, baby, you know that's just future. Well, the future may not tell it, but I wave with chest bloom encrusted with heat and salt. You nod, closer, again, rib flare, goiter, clavicle. I utter, not my mother, not my father, not my sister, not my brother, but it's me who can't bear to be with my own whole self. Suffocation after endometriosis failure. Mothers, what wilderness have you abandoned in my earthen body? What secret fissures have you hidden, left to erupt beneath my distended belly flesh? Loosen these lunar legions up off me, I feel them swarming, gnawing through me. How do I explain my inheritance of dislocation, found even in blood and misplaced tissues? That others have named, but these names have not been able to call it forth, call it out of my body, this thing that surges and cleaves, tongue to roof of mouth, petrifies, energized to bristle, collapses legs, collapses any embodied sanctuary I have left. Mothers, you have taught me there's no resolute refuge within or without the body. You have taught me my pain is my own, but not mine alone, but yours and yours and yours and yours. And so this final poem is entitled I Want to Be Closer, Snapshot, Mason Jar, Making Georgia Dirt. And I'm dedicating this reading to Michael. He won district and state in high school for Best Actor and Actress for his role as a black matriarch trying to prevent the building of a highway through her community. And so I'm dedicating this video to him. Motherboard, white candles, sardines offered at the riverbank on Mondays. When I'm really still, when I'm still reeling, I can feel your pulse in the atmosphere, in the midst of me. Melancholia coiled around my throat, wires of grief corroding my metallicized breath. Sometimes I glimpse you in dreams, the ones where I overfill your old leather suitcase, mahogany with marigolds and broom, magnificent magnolias and room. Afterwards, I rush to drape the mantle's 3 mirrors with gold sheets. That's when you appear in mulberry-stained linen, mulling, murmuring, humming, massaging comfrey balm into your left arch. With your free hand, you point to me, jut your chin to tell me to quit my meddling, tilt your head instead to the maroon socks I should hand you before you smolder once more into ember memory, leaving me only with a wind of sweat, maple, pepper, and moonrise. When I ache with a mouth tasting like muscadines mixed with cigar ash. I want to tell you this. I try to be good. I try to cry when I need to cry. Drink water when I have thirst. Deny myself nothing when I need it. If I got it, to give myself. No, that's not quite what you taught me. Not quite the language of our lineage. But still what you want from me. And you say, that's my thing. Yes, I want to be yours. You know, I wonder where you've been, how you've been calling on you for you again, shin deep, back bend, both hands, churning the riverward, wishing for a glimmer of you. You know, you can call me sometime. It's so good to hear your voice. Yes, call me sometime. You can always come back. Come back now, you're here, and rest by me just a little bit. Don't be gone too long. Call me home. So my phone freaked out except for the first 20 seconds. So that means it's your turn now. Just briefly. So something I've been thinking about a lot is plumbing and the way that elders talk about how humming is a way to pray without the devil knowing what you're asking for. And so we're going to do some call and response humming. And so I'll just hum a little bit and then you hum back. And if you feel called to go in a different direction and layer, that's cool too.
much. Let's give another round of applause for our incredible fellows. And Miss Esther, Dr. Sandra, Deborah, Meredith, Elizabeth, and Jacqueline. And a round of applause for these amazing actors. And a round of applause for all of you for sticking with us. And again, my job as executive director would not be complete if I don't point out that on the back of your program is a QR code. That QR code is to donate to support Torch. Torch Literary Arts is a 501c3 nonprofit. That means that we rely on donations from individuals. That is our lifeblood. Because not only is it the funding that we need to make these incredible programs possible, it shows that our community wants to show up to them, see them, and support them. So there's no amount that's too small, no amount too large. But if you are able, please do scan that QR code and make a donation. There is also a QR code in the back for a survey. Your feedback really does matter. We look at all of that feedback and it helps to plan our programs to make them even better. And we want to be able to show that to our incredible foundations in the city and funders that, again, our community is invested in seeing this great work continue. So if you can, scan it. You can do it in a car at home. I promise it's brief. But I'd appreciate you doing that survey and giving us your feedback. And then lastly, if you are able, thank you again to the George Washington Carver Museum, rocking with us and staying with us into the evening. But if you are able-bodied, please help pick up the chair you are sitting in so we can put those away and help them get out a little faster tonight. Thank you so much for coming.